All right. Now the second half of our training today, we're working on the 10 essentials. Now I talked to our medical consultant and he just strongly advised that we really train everyone on these things. And I've heard about this in the past, but it's been a while. So I really wanted to share these things with you guys. Essentially, these are like the 10 essential things that you need to have in your first aid kit, your pack, whatever, on any trip you ever do, anytime, anywhere. So we're going to try and keep it pretty simple. You can go as crazy on these things or as simple as you want. This essentially, there's 10 things that are just critical to have in your pack at all times to keep yourself safe. The whole idea of the 10 essentials, by the way, came from a book called, it's from 1947, the third edition of Freedom of the Hills for Mountaineering. If you guys have not heard of that book, let this be the first time and log it away, because that is like the best book ever if you are interested in rock climbing or mountaineering or anything like the next level. It has everything in that book. It's awesome. So that's where the 10 essentials kind of started from. And then it was modified. And then in 2003, they made an adjustment from the old 10 essentials list to the new 10 essentials list. And we're going to talk about both ideas. So
what's the name of the book again?
It was called Mountaineering, Freedom of the Hills. It's so cool. I have a copy. You can borrow it anytime. It's like the Bible for climbing. Awesome. And then mountaineering has every kind of knot, every way you can do anything, canyoneering skills, all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. Yeah, Freedom of the Hills. You can get it on Amazon, I'm sure. All right, so the classic 10 essentials, and these are the ones from like the 47, from the first edition. Essentially, they are map, and this is all printed out. Like, you can print this up. So, but if you want to take notes, that's cool too. So we've got map, compass, sunglasses, sunscreen, extra clothing, headlamp, first aid supplies, fire starter, matches, knife, and extra food. So we're going to go through all that. I'm just going to do the old school pretty quick, and then we'll focus on the new one. All right, so a map, of course, that's critical for where you're going. I just want to throw a heads up or a shout out for maps. We used to use these a lot back in the day. These National Geo maps are really awesome, especially, I always like to have something, if I'm going to be in the mountains more a couple days, you really want to have something that in case your batteries fail on your GPS or whatever like that, you've got a backup. The National Geographic maps are awesome because they're waterproof and they seem to be a little bit more burly. And I have got them for like Moab area and Yellowstone area and all, there's a zillion of these. You can get them for any place you're going to go, most of the stuff. All right, then a compass. Number 2. It's good just to have a compass. I always just have one. You never know where you're going to be. I was in Yellowstone once in the winter for no good reason, taking my friend Erin, and we decided, also for no good reason, to travel at night and snowshoe through this huge valley full of mist because we wanted to check out these wolf tracks. Anyway, the only way we made it through the mist is by taking a bearing with our compass on a tree. Anyway, and we followed our compass in the dark through, and it was cool. And we saw the wolf tracks and all that sort of stuff and didn't die in the mist. So compasses, you never know when you're just going to be needing a basic compass. So, and this one you can see, it's just the basic part of the compass. Awesome. Sunglasses, sunscreen, so sun protection. So you've got, I'm always losing these, but whatever. And then of course you can get a little small sunscreen. That's number 3. Number 4, extra clothing. This is probably a no-brainer if you're going to go on a hike or anything. You want to have like an extra, I always like to have like an extra fleece because they're lightweight, they're soft. You can use them for many things in first aid. And then I always like to have a waterproof layer as well. This is one of my favorites. This is made by Go Light or something like that. Anyway, what it is, it folds up into this size, and essentially, I use this cycling too. It's really cool. It's super lightweight, but it just is a rain jacket. So how neato is that? Anyway, there's probably cooler things. This is like 10 years old. So yeah, Go Light is the brand. But anyway, whatever, a waterproof, you want to have a waterproof shell on you. Winter, summer, doesn't matter. Anytime the mountains are awesome of like no matter what you think it looks like in the valley, it is totally different up in the mountains and they love to change on you. So number 5, headlamp, flashlight. So I always like to have a light source. If I really think I'm going to be hiking out in the dark, then I do bring a headlamp. If it's like middle of the day, then I'll just have just your little flashlight. And always bring, change the batteries. Oh my gosh, this nearly killed us. We just did a canyoneering trip 2 weeks ago. Ended up on the 200-foot rappel in the dark, and it was, my batteries were gone. The lead guide's batteries were gone. Luckily, Marilyn was prepared. Anyway, Erica, Lisa, you were on that trip. Yeah. Anyway, so batteries, extra batteries are always good. Fire starters. Let's see. Number 6 is first aid supplies. Whatever is good for you. You know what you usually. I keep this pretty simple if you're just doing stuff by yourself. And so my classics are make sure you have Band-Aids, make sure you have gauze, and we'll talk about that in a second. Bacitracin is one of the better antibiotics right now. Not Neosporin, that's like old school. Bacitracin is the new thing. Sort of new. There's cooler things, but it's good for basic people.
Is that over the counter?
Yeah, over the counter. And then medical tape would be the 4 things I would absolutely have in every first aid kit. With those 4 things, you can bandage up little things, big things, yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff. So that should, at least have those 4 items in a first aid kit. Fire, let's see. So number 7 is fire starter. So fire starter, those of you guys who did our survival, we're so good at this, using our flint and steel, magnesium, whatever, battery and steel wool, magnify, whatever, they suggest having a fire starter. And then also matches is so fire starter, and then number 8 is matches. I didn't have matches, but I got a lighter. If I ever bring a lighter, I like to bring 2, unless you're cool like Lisa. She has some pretty awesome lighters. But, essentially 2 ways to start fires is you have 2 of the 10 are things that can start fires. Number 9, a knife. I always like to have a multi-tool knife, not just a regular knife, even though it's super cool looking knife. But a multi-tool that's got scissors and a saw are very helpful. And then anything, if you got anything that can pinch. Swiss Army knives are okay, but I actually prefer multi-tools now because pliers can get in and fix things with packs and all sorts of stuff. So having a knife, number 9, and then extra food, of course, is a no-brainer. And I think on every activity we do, everyone's got like enough food for like another day, no matter how many days we're out. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, always want to have extra food. I always suggest on any hike, have a snack for every hour that you're going to be in the mountains. So, except for when you're sleeping. But yeah, it's a good rule of thumb. Okay, so those are the old school 10, which are totally fine. If that's what you want to be, that's cool. Now, the new school way is coming from just like individual 10 items to 10 philosophies, I guess is a good way to explain it. So the new 10 are they're pretty much the same, but it's got a little bit more stuff for all our cool technology and stuff. So number 1 is navigation. So instead of just a map, we've got all the things you're going to use for navigation. You've got your map, you've got your compass. If you're cool and have a GPS, this is like an old one. They're cooler now. And then my favorite, you might want to write this down, but I use an app called Gaia, G as in gorilla, A-I-A. Gaia. It's free, and it's got a zillion topo maps of like the whole world and at least the US, anything that we're going to be doing, and it'll actually follow you in real time, even if your phone's on like you can put your phone on airplane setting, and it'll still keep track of you and do pings along the route, and you can save that as well. So that's kind of a cool thing. So navigation is number 1. Number 2 is our sun protection. So we're going to have our sunscreen, sunglasses. Also good to add in a hat. as well. This is my summertime hat. In the winter time, I just switch it out for winter hat. These are really lightweight. I like to get ones that are actually windproof. You can tell that they're windproof because when you breathe through them, it's harder to breathe through them. I don't know. And they should stay on them, but if you get stuff used like I do, you always just check that. All right, number 3 is insulation. So clothing items. We kind of already talked about that. If you're doing anything in winter, especially, it's always nice to have an extra pair of bottoms and tops. Just so I like a liner bottom and a liner top, you know, depending on your weight, what you can handle. But yeah, I always like to have those. You'd include gloves. I always like to have a puffy when I'm doing anything in the winter time, just for comfort and love. So I'll be hiking and other things, and then when you stop, I like to put my puffy on the top. So when I open up my pouch and I'm having my little snack and my water, I've got my puffy too. I just put my puffy on, eat my food, and then put all the stuff back, put the puffy back, and then I'm back into my liner and my just light jacket for snowshoeing or skiing or whatever like that. Okay, number 4, illumination. So that is like your headlamps, flashlights, and stuff like that. We already talked about that. Make sure you have extra batteries. Number 5, first aid. So first aid stuff, like I talked about, those basic 4 Band-Aids, gauze. It's nice to have gauze in 2 sizes if you want. There's 4x4 and 2x2s, depending on how accident prone you and your friends are. It's nice to have 2 different sizes. Then the bacitracin I talked about, and then of course medical tape. Get good medical tape. There's a lot of crappy medical tape out there. I like 3M medical tape, but whatever you got is all good. Also some bonuses if you want for your first aid kit. I'm just gonna show this out. This is called New Skin, or literally super glue, or work good for lacerations. Lacerations. Anyway, I did a lot of cool stuff over the weekend, but the thing that hurt me was opening the door into my head. So the car door. And so a lot of times I like to have steri strips with me, and it's a really good way of closing lacerations. And you just after it's gonna bleed lots, and you just clean that off with some good clean water and pat it dry with your gauze. And then you just put these on and you're good to go. So I like to have little steri strips, and they're super light. Also, I have tampons, have many purposes. Also pads have many purposes. And then I have a little piece of tinfoil in here. You don't necessarily have to. This is for sucking check spoons. Anyway, I've never had to come across that, but sometimes it's fun to have it in my case or my kit just in case. I always figure if you have the stuff you need, then you never have to use it, right? So that's cool. And then number 6, we go to fire and fire starters. All that's clumped together. I always like to have at least 2 ways to start a fire, maybe 3. So you got a lighter, matches, and a fire starter, like a flint and steel. Just always have that. You never know what's going to happen. I've been lost canyoneer, in the desert. We had the GPS point of our car, but we couldn't get there because the sun had set, and there was just all these slot canyons between us and the car. So we had to spend the night. We ended up burning a juniper tree and living off of a Ziploc bag of peanut butter. Anyway, we made it. So because we had our fire starters with us. So always have those. You never know what's going to happen in a day. All right. Then number 7 is repair kits. So they just put knives and all that kind of stuff together in just a repair kit. And a repair kit can be whatever you want. Some of the things that I love to do, of course, at minimum, have a multi-tool. Super glue, because it also doubles for this and medical stuff. Just think of all the things that can break. My backpack can break, my body, tents can break, whatever gear you're using, biking or skiing or whatever, any of that kind of stuff can break down. Duct tape. I like to bring this, and I actually will wrap it around a ski pole, 3 or 5 or 10 times, or wrap it around a water bottle like this. And that way it's just there. And if you need it, whatever duct tape, you can use it on blisters or, all that kind of stuff. Duct tape's awesome. Cordage. This is just really small rope that's super strong. You can use it for shelters. You can use it to tie stuff to your pack or whatever you might need it for. I've had straps break, and so I like to pack a needle and floss, actually. Just regular floss. If you take apart the floss container, you can pull out the little thing of floss that's in there, little spool, and I'll just pack that with a needle. Sometimes I'll put the needle in somewhere, like a piece of material, like the kit, your knife or somewhere you're not gonna poke yourself. But anyway, a needle and floss. I fixed so many backpack straps and all sorts of junk that just tents, just emergency stuff. You can also get patches for thermarest bags, just a couple of those, and you can use your super glue for that. If you like to bring spare buckles, go for it. I'm always having buckles break because I'm really hard on things. So that's also nice. Save yourself some pain and suffering. All right. And then number 8 is nutrition. Just extra food. Like I said, bring something for every hour you're going to be out there. Some of my favorite things are goo packets, or the stinger packets. They're really small and they're just awesome and just in a pinch. And especially when you're not feeling it and you're just going to be like, you're nauseous and sick and you just got to get something in your body. I really love those packets. They're the best. Bars are good, except then they freeze in the wintertime. And then I like to have also a little Propel packet. I like these better than Gatorade. Gatorade's got so much sugar. Not that Propel doesn't, but it seems to have a little less sugar. Anyway, any of your juice whatevers that kind of help bump you in some electrolytes and stuff like that are good to have in there as your 10 essentials. And then hydration is number 9. Just nice to have water. I would say any activity you're going to be doing, you need to have 1 to 3 liters just as a base for that day, depending on how long you're going to be out and how hot it's going to be. And I always like to have a little bit extra if I can. I know the biggest the Camelbacks can take are 3 liters, which is a lot of water. But yeah, I would always err on the side of having more water. And I'd also make sure I had something to clean water if I needed to. But you can do the straws. I always just carry tablets just because they're light and I can always bring them and they're easy. There's iodine, which tastes awful, but I can use my Propel to make the water taste good. And then there's also chlorinated ones. They just take like 4 hours to work. So it's only good if you're doing a camp out. All right. And then number 10 is our emergency shelter. And that can be as simple as just having an emergency blanket in your kit. They actually make, I just learned this, emergency bivvies, which is like a waterproof thing like this that is like goes over a sleeping bag. And it's the same size. And that's even better than emergency blanket, I would think. You can also get the super cool lightweight tarps. And I would get something that's probably like 8x8 if you could. But sometimes that's the weight is a factor. But they have some really cool lightweight things out there. And then we did that in our survival class and how to make a zillion different tarp shelters. So that tarp, that with your cordage would make you set for anything. And the cool thing about having the 10 essentials is if you had the 10 essentials in your pack, you are ready for anything. I was talking to our medical advisor consultant, Brian Nelson, who said when we left him on the top of Timpanogos at the saddle for us to summit, and he had to kind of chill out for a little bit because he wasn't feeling so good. He said, I had the 10 essentials. I could have been there for a couple days because I felt so confident in the stuff that I brought. And so I think that that's a good rule of thumb to know that, like, I've got the stuff that if anything goes sideways, I can make it through the night, and make it to the next morning and to get help. So that's kind of the basic idea. So those are the 10 essentials. We're going to start training all the women and having not just the guides to have these, but the women themselves. And just kind of work on this for the next year. So do you guys have any questions? That was a fire hose. Welcome, new people. I think that's a Marilyn. Juliana's here again. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyone, if you have questions, go ahead and I'll give you a minute or so to unmute. Otherwise, we're good. Can't imagine that was that comprehensive. All right. If you're good, give me a thumbs up. You're good and learned everything your brain can possibly fit in tonight. We're good. Marilyn, are you good? You're good. All right. Okay, well, cool. I'm going to throw, I've got the document on the Facebook page, so I will go ahead and I'm actually going to upload and re-upload it with some of these tips that I put in. just cool things to, addendums that we talked about. So just in case you had your arms full and weren't able to take notes, which is totally cool and happens. So I just want to say I love you and give you all hugs at the end of all these meetings. I just miss you terribly. But hopefully next year we'll be able to do these more in person. But until then, have a wonderful night and have fun exploring. And we cannot wait to play with and hang out in the future.